Welcome to Quilting with Mary Beth and Donna. Today we're going to be talking about labels and documenting your quilts. Hello, Mary Beth.
Good morning, Donna.
How are you today?
I am good today. How about you?
I think I'm okay.
Good.
The shower was hot this morning, so that's a good
Ye-
sign. It was not yesterday, so
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
yeah. We're having issues with our hot water heater, but
I, re- I remember you saying something about you had to reset your hot water heater, and I thought, yikes, I don't even know how to do that.
yeah, well, I know now, but it was funny because I turned it on yesterday morning. They had Bible study I was going to go to. I wasn't leading this one, but I was going to it. And, I turned on the water and it was just cold, and I said,
Brr.
"Oh, not again." And Ed immediately went downstairs and hit the button. But you can't take a shower right after that, you have to let the water heat up, so
Uh,
I did nothing
we
yesterday.
we have an on-demand water heater. I love
Uh-huh.
that. Yeah,
Do
so
you?
it's always ready. Yeah, my poor daughter-in-law came to visit, and she's used to being rural, and so she said when she got out, she goes, "Okay, well, I turned the water on and then I turned it back off and I lathered all up and washed my hair, and then I turned the water back on just to save hot water." And I said, "Oh, Becky." So I took her in and showed her this teeny little thing on the wall. I said, "That's our hot water heater. It's on demand, so it's always ready for hot water." And she said, "Oh, okay."
That's
I guess
cool.
I should have explained that to her before, but yeah.
I don't know, you never see her again, she'll just be in the shower the whole time.
Yeah, yeah.
Too funny. Too funny.
So, yeah.
Okay, so what have you been up to? Well, we just saw each other Sunday, so, I feel like this is a short week, but what have you been up to?
Well, as a matter of fact, I got carried away on those, I was working on a paper piecing, quilt at retreat, and I only took 3 projects this time, but I got so wound up in this paper piecing project that I didn't wanna put it down. I didn't wanna stop. So I just continued on. Then when I got home, I laid it all out here and I thought, "Ooh, here we go. I'll get to do it again." So I started working on it. Then I got the email from Legit Kit saying, "Your second part of Sophia's in the mail." And I went, "Ah." So put that away yesterday and dragged out my Legit Kits, the first part, but the second section. And I'm having a hard time figuring it out. So I'm just on the second seam and I ripped out the first seam and then I said, "No, that is right." And I put it back. Now I'm trying to get to the second seam and I'm having a glitch. So,
Yeah, that was really great, last week or the week before when I was working on it because I had quilts. I was doing edge to edge quilts with the computer so I could sit here all day and do it. And
yeah.
now I have a like a large double wedding ring on the custom machine and so I can't sew like I was able to a couple weeks ago. So I need to sit down and work on that. Yes,
Yeah.
because I haven't quite put together the first block of the first month, so I have to do the whole second block, and then my legit kit showed up in the mail 2 days ago, so I'm
Well,
behind.
mine'll be here today. So woohoo. And
Story of my life.
yep. And Sheila got signed up today. So she'll be starting. I
That's
mean,
good, and
it let her sign up. So yay.
yeah, and so we have to be quiet. Well, now that she signed up, we can start complaining about it. We couldn't complain before.
Yeah, we could
It's
say how
bad.
great it was. "Oh my gosh, I love this." "No, Sheila, you're missing out." No,
I
I
just
really
want
do like it, but this time I'm like, "Wait, what?" And so my seam ripper is laying right there on top of all my stuff, so it's ready to go at any given moment.
yeah, I use the seam ripper a lot because I would s just doing the foundation paper piecing part where you sew the straight line, I would have my fabric wouldn't cover the piece, and so I'd have to rip it out. So I was ripping out just like every other seam. So,
I hate that.
but now I have to pull it out. I'll have to pull it out, but now I have the light table, so that should help me make my pieces
Yeah.
better, hopefully. So I'll try that. I was chatting with a friend, my good friend Dina, um, and she was asking about it, and I said I understand the idea of having the small pieces. Like, you have a little piece that's maybe, 2 by 3 inches and it's got 2 or 3 seams on it because that seems more, kinda like you can eat an elephant one bite at a time. But you have a lot more seams putting those together, and I think it might be actually easier if you had larger paper pieced parts, then you would have fewer seams putting those together. But I'm not running the show, so
Yeah.
does that make sense?
It does to me.
Okay, good.
So, I'm just stuck right now, and I need to focus on it, but, I have concrete people here today, and so I know that my attention span is gonna be so I'm not working on it to not right now. I might this afternoon when they leave, but for this morning, no.
That's good. I, didn't
Mhm.
do anything well, because of my, water heater was not working yesterday morning. I determined that that was my "You don't have to do anything today." So I
Oh,
didn't.
see how that works?
It was great. And then so I have to what do I have to do today? Um, a man called me a couple of weeks ago and said, "Hey, I've got a comforter that needs to be fixed." And I asked him about it. He goes, "Well, it's just one of the seams has come out, and some of the batting is, shifted." And I said, "Well, I can fix that." And I should have said no, but I said I could fix that. And then it turns out the I don't know how old this comforter is, but it is threadbare. So the
Oh,
bottom the inside layer is just almost not there. So I have to I bought a sheet online, and I'm gonna put the sheet on the back, but I'm not quite sure how I'm gonna put it all together. So I have to figure that out today.
uh,
So I have to think.
fun times. Yeah, fun
Yeah.
times.
He didn't
Uh,
mention the threadbare part when he said that, but
they never do. They always leave something out. Yeah, like JR brings out this quilt and says, "I need you to fix this quilt. Aunt Sharon made it for me." She passed away 20, golly, 25 years ago. And she made this for me, and he didn't say until he handed it to me, "It's been in the garage and a dog's been laying on it." And ugh, it's it's really bad. I mean, I can't smell, and it's so full of dust or something that it makes my allergies go, you know.
ugh,
So, so I need to wash it, but when I unfolded it and looked at it, there are no like, it was a panel, evidently, but it was yardage of stuff. So it was ducks, like mallard type weird ducks, and those are all disintegrated.
oh, great.
So I said, "Can I just remake the top?" "No, leave it like it is, cause but it's not a top. There's nothing to it.
Yeah,
So it's in my
yeah.
garage cause I can't stand to be around it, and, I need to wash it, but I can't. It's gonna totally go away when we wash it, so
You know what you should do? You should cut it up. You should cut a big square out of it and put it behind glass and hang it like a picture and say, "This
well,
is your
I
quilt."
suggested something like that, but he said, "No, Aunt Sharon made this. It needs to be Aunt Sharon's quilt." And I'm like, "It's not Aunt Sharon's quilt right now."
Yeah,
So,
especially when the dog was sleeping on it.
yeah, and I think it chewed up some of those things, so you can't leave it out and let the dog have its way with it and then want it
Yeah,
to be like it was, so
yeah.
anyway,
Great. It's always
yeah,
something.
isn't it? I don't wanna
Yeah.
do it, but I gotta figure something out with it.
Yep. Great
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
So, we got back from the retreat on Sunday. I rolled in here about 3:30, We we left the retreat. Sheila and I left the retreat, and we went to Casey Makers, and she bought backing for the quilt that she worked on, the sunflower quilt. And then I dropped her off at the airport, and then I had to pick up dogs. So I came home, and Ed emptied out the truck, and he brought everything downstairs except for the two heavy sewing machines.
Oh,
So I've left him up there so he would get the hint that they need to come downstairs, but it hasn't happened yet. So,
yeah.
so I'm gonna have to drag two heavy sewing machines down to the basement. It'll be great
Well,
fun.
I got home at, what, 11:30, 12 o'clock, somewhere in there, because I only had a 45-minute drive, not like you did, and, no one was home. Rod was out fishing, or maybe he was out fishing, so I came home by myself, and, um, did I unload? I no, he helped me unload, so I don't know. I can't remember if he's here or not, but anyway, I took my little Singer 301, so it's not as heavy, so I can unload that one by myself, and, anyway, I got it all unloaded and put away. I was so proud of myself because usually it takes me a month to put everything away from Quilt Retreat, and then I gotta load it all back up again,
Pull it back out again.
shortly,
Yeah.
and yeah. So, anyway, I've got it all put away and back to sewing, so
Well, the
yay.
good news is that we have another retreat in a little over a month, and I'm primed to finish a bunch of quilts at that one because I didn't finish any at this one. So,
Yay.
so
You always work hard, though, and at that retreat, there's not as many distractions,
right, right, yeah, I'll
It's
get
just
stuff
us
done.
girls, 3 of us, and we can get a lot done.
Yep, it'll
So,
be great fun.
yes.
Okay, and so I have to tell you, I was I have the 2, they're not puppies anymore, but we call them the puppies because, the younger ones are always called the younger ones or the girls or whatever, and so I have the
Yeah.
puppies, and they like to sleep under the covers, no judgment. They like to sleep on the
Nope.
covers, but I swear Thea, the female, that girl can strip a bed with just one movement, and I don't know how she does it. Like, she gets up to readjust, and all of a sudden, all the sheets are gone, and it's so it's, so
Um,
frustrating, so I got up
Bella
this
Bella
morning, I was like, "Oh."
Bella used to sleep on the bed, but she's too old to jump up there now, so she sleeps in the floor, but she's got her orthopedic bed, and she
Yeah,
lays on
yeah.
it, so and today she didn't wanna get up because yesterday she was outside, like, nearly all day, and she even went to the back door here in the garage and just laid next to it, and I said, "Do you need to go in the house? Do you need a nap?" Because she was tired, and
Poor
this
thing.
morning, Rod got up and left for work. She didn't get up. She normally wakes up with him, but not today, and then, she, stayed in bed even after I got up. That's not normal. So,
Yeah, she needs a break. Poor thing.
yep, she's very
Working her
tired.
hard, working her hard.
Yes, all this activity outside with the building and stuff, and she's just, like, thinks she has to be in the middle of it right now. The concrete guys are out there, and she thinks she needs to be out there, and I said, "No, you don't." She stepped in it in the footing last week, so, there's a big paw print that goes down, like her foot sunk down in it, it was that wet. So
Great. You're gonna have little kitty prints in there too.
oh, yeah, the guy wants us to stay off of it because we have red clay around here, and Um, he's gonna come out and put a finish on it that'll be shiny, so we're gonna try to leave it concrete, and he's gonna
Yeah.
put a dye and shine and stuff on it. So, um, we're gonna try to leave it like that. Hopefully, it'll work. This Our house did not. We tried to do it ourselves, and white blotches kept coming up through everything we put on it, and we tried 5 different products in different areas, and it just kept doing
Mm.
that. So, we gave up and
Hopefully
put,
it'll work.
luxury vinyl tile down, so we're gonna try it again in this quilt room and see what happens. So,
Cool.
yesterday he said, "You know, I'm running out of room in my garage. I really Maybe we should make that into a garage. No.
Uh, you could put a garage on the back 40.
Ixnay on the garage. How do you say that? A garage A? I don't know. A
Yeah.
garage A? I don't know. Anyway, yeah,
Og
no garage.
garage, yeah. Um,
Yeah,
thank you for the Big Latin.
no problem. I'm not fluent,
Uh,
by the way.
okay, so, we're gonna have a new segment called Circle Back, and we're going to talk about, follow up on things that we've talked about before. And one of the things we wanna talk about are had a s we talked about Joanne's closing couple of weeks ago, and we were, like, not sure what was gonna happen. So, tell me about Michael's.
Well, all I know is someone on a site said Michaels was gonna start having a full fabric section at the end of March. So I don't know if they're taking over what Joann's used to do. I don't know.
Okay,
That's
that'll
all
be
I
good.
know. Yeah, if they do that, I know some Michaels stores have fabric, but I think it's supposed to be a lot of fabric now. So, I someone people keep asking me, so I'm gonna put on my, Quilting with Mary Beth page, I'm just gonna do a segment there and a feature or whatever, post it to the top saying the different places you could buy online. I mean, I would say check your local area because sometimes there are stores that sell fabric, at a reduced price or whatever it is that you're looking for. Like, for instance, I know in Springfield there's a place called Farmers Market or FM stores, what they call it now. When I was a kid, it was Farmers Market. They've, you know, gotten more modern, so they call it FM store. Uh, Same thing. They have a section of fabric that's a reduced price, and a lot of people go there and buy fabric. There's another place, gosh, I wish I'd have thought of this before we started, but, it's sells all fabric and batting and drapery fabrics or upholstery type fabrics. I'm not sure if it has clothing fabric, but I've gone there and bought quilt fabric before. So and it's they have a wide variety, vast.
You could even
Um,
try I know that there are some, Ace Hardwares that carry fabric too. So, yeah,
right,
if you've got a
yeah.
place around there where you've got that kinda stuff, check them out.
Just look in your area. I mean, put type in fabric stores or whatever, and all these places will come up. If you may not even realize you have them in your area. Some of the online places somebody asked me about, of course, Hobby Lobby, is they have decent fabric. It's usually not too bad. You just need a feel of it, just like any place else. But, Bear Creek Quilt Company is one that I've ordered from, and Green Fairy Quilts, Missouri Star, of course. Um, and then you had one that you mentioned to me that someone talked to you about.
Yes, Gail was listening to the, podcast, and she said, it's online, it's ineedfabric.com,
Okay.
and, she said it's got good deals and not quite quilt shop quality, but equal to or better than Joann, so that's a good option too.
Yeah.
ineedfabric.com.
Okay.
So
And
that's good.
thank you
So
for
there are real
listening.
places out there. Yes, thank you, Gail. Gail is a good friend of mine.
Good. Yeah, I've heard.
So, um, she is a fellow long armor,
Oh,
um,
okay.
APQS.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, housekeeping. This is a podcast, and we now have a website. If that has everything on it. So if you go to Quilting with Mary Beth and Donna, I just put Quilting with Mary Beth. I forgot the and Donna part. Hmm. Quilting. Quilting with Mary Beth and Donna dot alitu.com. That is how we are creating a podcast, is alitu.com. So you can go there. Mary Beth has a Facebook group called Quilting with Mary Beth, and she has many, many members on there. Very helpful, very nice. You have to answer a couple of questions to get on there, like, "Are you a quilter?" type things.
Yeah. If you're a
And
quilter, you can answer the questions. They're very simple,
yes, and then she has an Instagram page, Quilting with Mary Beth. Are you
right?
keeping that one up too?
Yeah, I'm just posting pictures of my quilts as I finish them, so or as I'm working on them, whatever.
Okay.
So, yeah,
And then I also have a Facebook page called Donna W. Smith Quilter, on both Instagram and Facebook. And then if you want to just see my quilting and not all my animals and stuff like that, you can go to the hashtag Donna W. Smith Quilter, and you can just see my quilts. So quilting, not my my quilting. So find us and follow us and like us.
yes. Be
Uh,
sure to answer the questions on Quilting with Mary Beth. I have one lady that's sitting there right now that hasn't answered any questions, and I'm waiting, and I usually give people, a couple of weeks or so to answer those questions, and if you don't, then I just say delete because I've had weird people in there before, not saying that everybody's weird or anybody is, but, I've had some folks that
yeah,
shouldn't be there. Yeah,
yeah. So you've got to monitor that a little bit. Um,
I do.
Exciting news. We are going to talk to Jean Ann Wright next week. She is also another good friend of mine. No, she was
That's so witty.
she's another Colorado person. And Jean Ann is a quilt historian and a quilt appraiser, and she's very well known in the industry. So we will talk to her about what she does, and she's going to tell us about the care and feeding of our quilts. Um,
Great. I look
Sh
forward to it.
her quilts are not in the garage on the floor, and I think she has at one time, I know she had over 600, quilts, mostly antiques, I think, so we'll be excited to talk to her next week.
I love history,
Okay.
so I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, this week we are going to talk about quilt labels.
Yep, that's it.
Okay, so what's the purpose what's the purpose of a quilt label, Mary Beth?
To document your quilt for future reference. That's what I would say.
Okay,
So go ahead.
so no,
So do it.
how many
I mean,
quilts do you have do you have labels on in your vast, quilt vault?
I will tell you this. I did not label JR's quilt that I gave him and his girlfriend. I always do, but I did not get a label on that one. And I wish I had, but I will. I can always take it to their house and just sit there and whip it on. No big deal, you know. So that one I didn't, and the Chiefs quilts that I made them all for Christmas, I didn't. But normally every quilt has one.
Oh, really?
Yep,
Even the quilts you keep?
yep, just in case.
Yeah.
I'm
I had
gonna
a bad
be
ex
broke someday.
I had a bad experience when I was very first started quilting. I made, quilts for 2 ladies that I, was good friends with, and, I poured my heart out on the quilt label, and, then they turned on me, and so I don't do quilt labels for people anymore. I'm like, "Yeah, that's I don't wanna think about that quilt label on a quilt that somebody might just give away because they're not as good people as I thought they so
Well,
so
so far I have only given my quilts to my family, and a couple of people that, like my next door neighbor in Kansas City was so good to us that every time we'd have surgeries, she'd show up. I mean, when Rod had a knee replacement and I'm going through fibromyalgia and I'm trying to, lift on his leg machine and all that stuff, I was just having a terrible time. When we came home from the hospital, she brought in food to last us a whole week. I didn't have to cook any meals at all. And that was so kind and so generous of her time and her labor and her, food and all that. So I made her a little quilt, not a big deal. So I've made her one. I made a friend one that was going through breast cancer last year. I don't make a lot of quilts for people that I don't know or that I do know that are just friends or whatever. Cause yeah, I don't sometimes they just don't appreciate you or the quilt as much as they
Yeah,
should,
yeah,
you know?
that's
Yeah,
true. And, so, like we said, a quilt label is to document the quilt. Um,
yeah,
and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but as I did my homework this week, the first thing I did was I think I went to, like, Missouri Star and Fat Quarter Shop to see what they had available, and they have a couple of options, but it's basically, you know, made just for you or something like that. It was just a label that says made for you or handmade or quilted by, quilted for blah blah
yeah,
blah. And so I went on to Amazon and I think I did that. I think I okay, then I went onto Etsy because you can get a lot of personalized stuff on Etsy. And one of my customers had suggested a couple of years ago that I get a little label that goes into the seam and into the seam of the binding, kind of like a tag that you would have in your shirt or something. And so I did finally order some of those. So I have little labels that I'm not gonna. I don't know. I'm not gonna give them out to everybody just because I don't think that much about myself that people need to know that I quilted the quilt. But, like, for the custom ones, I will. Um, and it just says it's got a little flower on it, it says, "Quilted by Donna W. Smith." Um, and then so I went on to, uh, Etsy, and it was the same thing, "Made with love by Grandma Joe," or, you could get it personalized like that. I didn't see anything on there that was like documenting your quilt.
right. And there's different ways to do that. I don't even think about buying a pre-made label. I always make my own,
And you just write
always.
them. You just write them.
Well, no, and that's some of my notes here. I wrote Trips, my latest great grandbaby, because I felt like I got down to the wire. Okay, here's what I did. I bought an embroidery machine because I wanted it for labels. Isn't that ridiculous that I spent that much money just for labels? But no, because there's other things I can do with it that are
Yeah,
fun, and I've made a purse, stuff in the hoop you
yeah,
can do that's really fun. I didn't know you could do it. So anyway, but Trip weighed a pound, 1.8 pounds or whatever when he was 1 pound 8 ounces when he was born, I think. And the label was bigger than he was, on the embroidery machine, and I cannot adjust the font down small enough or the label small enough to put on a baby quilt. I mean, it takes up half the baby quilt. So I don't like that. I'm not trying to flash around that, woohoo, I made a quilt. I just want it documented. Um, so I usually type it out on my computer and send I buy that, well, I did buy it at Joann's, but, the stuff you peel it off the paper. You can send it through your printer and then peel it off the paper and then sew it down on your and I print the labels off, and then I heat set
yeah,
them, and then I sew it on.
yeah.
So, that's usually
That's
what
a
I
good
do.
option. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you can do it several ways. You can, sew it onto your backing before you quilt it, and then quilt over it all. And
Uh-huh.
that I mean, and that would be you'd have fusible, so you would have it fused onto the back of your quilt backing. And if you're giving it to a quilter to quilt, you need to make sure that they know that it's there, and you need to make sure that it's that when they load the quilt, that it will be in the back of on the back of the quilt.
Right.
So that's gonna take a little bit of effort, but that's
And thought.
totally
Yeah,
doable.
yeah, you have to
Uh,
think
the
about what you're doing.
the other option is to do it independently and then sew it on, and I don't mean you can then you can fuse it onto the back of your quilt and somehow tack it down or just leave it if you want to, I guess. It will be unquilted, but it will be on your quilt, or you can do as much as put like bindings around it and
Yeah.
finish it up and then sew it onto your quilt. So you can make them as fancy as you want them to, but those are your options on putting them on the quilt. Now, the only quilts that I have labels on are ones that have been in the quilt show because you have to label your quilt for it to be in the quilt show. And most of mine have just been fused on. I've written like with a Sharpie on some fabric and I just fused it onto the back of the quilt after it was done. I even put a like a business card just, pinned to the back of a quilt. So I'm not a big label maker, but,
Oh,
those are your
well, I
options.
love labels. I love labels um, because of the documentation. I love history, so I wanna make sure that I go down in history. Not really. I just wanna make sure that in time, people will know. Because I mean, how many quilts do I dig out or do I find? And I'm like, "Oh, I wonder what that pattern is." You don't
Right.
know. And if you don't have what is it, Barbara Backman or whoever that does the encyclopedia of quilt blocks, you don't know what you
Oh,
have
yeah.
going on, and then
Right,
you gotta hunt
right.
for it through there anyway. So if you
Yeah,
document your quilt, tell I mean, I like to put as much information as I can on it without getting crazy, um,
right.
but, I want people to know what they have 100 years from now.
Exactly. And that is more than and so I didn't really see a really good I mean, I guess they do have printed labels where you can write stuff, fabric labels that you can write stuff in, um,
Yeah,
but I was okay, so I was not really happy with what was available on Etsy or Amazon, and
yeah.
so I went to, Spoonflower. Are you familiar with Spoonflower?
Yeah, they do that fabric. They
Yeah,
customize fabric or whatever.
where you can, design fabric, and I've
Yes.
done that before making, signature wedding quilts with signatures on them. Where I've had the signatures made into fabric and then I put it in the quilt. But I went to Spoonflower to see if there was anything out there, and one of the labels that was available was um, a quiltalliance.org label. And Quilt Alliance is .org is a nonprofit that its purpose is to document, preserve, and share um, our American quilt heritage by collecting the rich stories told by their makers. And I remember them, the Quilting Council of Colorado would host, I think, Quilt Alliance people, so you could take your quilt in there and they would document it. I never did that, but you could do that.
Yeah.
But they have a really good. I'm going to pull it up. They have a really good label, and it's got the information that's on it is the quilt makers. So that would be the piecers and the quilters. The date started and finished, which
Oh,
I don't know. Yeah,
that
yeah,
could be a whole 'nother ball of wax.
yeah. Then the location it was made, So I
Uh-huh.
hadn't thought about that location, so you could put where it was made, and
Yeah.
then they have a line for the title or description. And so that's where you would put, what the like, if it was a pattern that somebody else made, you could put the name of the pattern, maybe who designed it, and then special notes. And so, and I wish that I had all my quilts documented with just what kind of batting I use, because I have a real hard time telling batting, in quilts after they've been quilted.
After
So
yeah.
that's what I would put in there. But one thing I
Well,
did, and anyway, so if you go to quiltalliance.org, it talks a whole lot about documenting quilts, and, Spoonflower had their labels on fabric. Okay, what were you gonna say?
well, first, how big is that label from that Quilt Alliance? I mean, it's got a lot of information on it, so it's gonna be a pretty good size label, right?
It's not no, it's not that big. It's like a index card, probably a
Oh,
4 by
okay, well,
6
that's not
index
bad.
card. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not bad. Um and okay, so then this is what I did. I decided, "Oh my gosh, I'm such a horrible label person," that I decided to make my own label in Spoonflower. And so I sent that to you, the pictures too.
Yeah, it
You
was
can
cute.
actually look at those.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
they were
so,
blurry, like, I couldn't blow them up to look close at
oh,
them. So but, yeah, it was cute from
but
a
but
distance.
what I did was I pulled in my little sunflower logo into Word, and then I added, I think it's like pattern name, quilter, or, maker, um, date, and then special, you know, other information. And then I saved it, and I think I'll remember this for next time. But, you have to turn it into a picture, so it has to be a PNG, I think,
Uh,
file, or I don't even know what they are, but
JPEG,
it
is
has
that what
yeah, a JPEG, or yeah, so it has to be a picture file, and so somehow I saved it and then I edited it into a picture file, and then I uploaded it, and then, I think I made mine it's like 4 by 6, so it's not big, but it's, a little bit of a size,
mhm,
and
yeah.
I just uploaded it, and I got a yard of fabric with, I wanna say, 6 by 7, so that's 42 labels on it, for $18, so I thought that was a pretty good
Oh,
deal, and
that's
it's
not
my
too bad.
label.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah,
it's my
that's
label,
not bad.
and when you save it, in Spoonflower, you can go back when you need 42 more, you can go buy another yard of fabric, and
Yeah.
you also have the option to make sheets and
Okay,
comforters and
so
shower
in looking at
curtains with
wow,
your label.
labels and what to
So
put
I
on
thought that
them
was a
and
big
where to
deal. I
put
might
them on
have to
your
get some
quilt,
sheets made out of my label.
um,
No
I
kidding.
have some information that I mean, I was just thinking out of my head of what to do. So, there are personal labels for our personal quilts that should I what I put on them is the recipient's name, uh, the name of the quilt if I have a name of a quilt, when it was made, maybe like for a baby, I usually put their birth date on it. So, so then I'll put like Trip and then his, August 19th and then made by m and I always put my name, not Bama. I put Mary Atchison, um, or Mary Beth Atchison, whatever, and then, the date it was made. So, I don't I have put where I was at when I made it, like, I did put Kansas City when I lived up there, but I haven't put it on lately. So, if you're, for personal quilts, that's probably plenty of information that it could be documented historically, I'm thinking.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
that's
think?
perfect. Perfect.
And then for show quilts, you really need to check with the website of the show, make sure you're getting the right information on it, but normally it needs to be the name of the quilt, the name of the maker, the name of the quilter, the date it was made, the techniques used, the pattern if there was one, and the pattern maker's name probably. I know when I made my flamingo quilt, I used Elizabeth Hartman's flamingos for the center of it, and I was going to enter it into AQS, but it wasn't. But I'm not hurt by that. Um,
Well,
anyway,
2 years later, you can enter it, in the, regional quilt, show
well,
here.
I had put in that I wanted to enter it in that, and it wasn't finished, so I don't.
Right.
They still take it. I don't know.
Well, you
I was
enter
in
it
the
again. You
book.
can enter it again.
Okay. So, so the label I made for that one is huge because it's oh, anyway, that quilt show said if I used a pattern, that I needed to get the pattern maker's permission. So I send Elizabeth Hartman an email and say, "Hey, I'm using, you know, Florence Flamingo in my quilt. Um, do I have your permission to do that?" And she goes, "You don't need to ask for my permission." I'm like, "Yeah, I do." So so anyway, but she said, "Yes, you have my permission to use it." And
She
so
she said, "Is this Mary Beth with Quilting with Mary Beth?"
she did actually. She goes, "Ooh, I know you." No, she didn't. Um, so anyway, I documented it. My label, no kidding, is about 18 inches tall, long this way. Oh, they can't see this. By probably 10 inches wide because the embroidery, one of the embroidery companies, I can't think right off the top of my head, has Tula Pink, um, designs for embroidery.
Right.
And so they had my flamingos. They were facing each other like they do on the fabric that I used on the quilt, but the flamingos, were kind of in that heart shape facing each other. And I thought, oh, I have to have that. So, oh my gosh, hang on. Um, sorry. So anyway, I had to have that. And so that made my label huge. And then, the wording at the bottom, it's huge. But
You need to figure that out because you should be able to make it smaller. You need to ask your
oh,
local quilt shop.
they have said that I can go in and, dial it down a little bit, but sometimes that makes the threads get bunched up too, and so it makes it weird looking, but I don't know, I'll see what I can do. But yeah, it was
'Cause
fun.
you should be able to
Except
make
for
labels with your $1,000 label maker.
mhm, or more than but anyway, yeah, I know, I don't wanna have to buy a program, to go with it, although I would like to make sweatshirts and stuff, and to do my own designs on it, I'd have to have that. If I wanna just buy pre-made designs that are already thought out and I don't have to think, then I can just keep buying them from the whatever. So, anyway, okay, so back to this. Show quilts, yeah, and then you need to find out where they want the label placed most of the time, and you tell me if this is right or wrong. When you're looking at the back of the quilt, it is usually this is where I put all of mine, no matter what. Well, if the show says not to do it, then I don't do it. I mean, I do everything they tell me to, but I put mine, if you're looking at the back of the quilt, on the lower left-hand corner so that when it's hanging on a wall, then it's on the lower right-hand corner. So when you
Yeah.
flip it up, yeah, so when they flip it up, because somebody will say, "Could I see the label?" I'm sure they'll do that on my flamingo quilt. "Could I see?" And so when they flip it up, it's right there on the right-hand side.
Yeah. And actually, I think they tell you have to cover your label when you send it in if they're
Oh,
judging it.
yeah, they do. Yeah, when they judge it. Yeah, you
Yeah.
pin yeah, safety pin a piece of fabric over the top of it, so
Yeah. So, yes, I that's what I hear too, that it needs to go on the lower left, which is the lower right from the front.
Yes.
So just make sure if like I said, if you're quilt if you're gonna put it on your backing before it's quilted, just make sure it's on there
And think
where
that
it's on
out.
the quilt. Yeah,
Yeah.
on the quilt.
Think out where you're putting it because I mean, you need to measure because, if you leave the quilter 4 inches on each end of, the
Yeah,
backing fabric, then you better measure up and over and because it's 4 inches on each side, make sure that that label's in the right
actually
spot.
in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I um should receive my labels um next week and I will go and document all of my quilts. How does that sound?
Right. Good idea. And then also what not to put on your label
Okay,
is
what not to put on your label?
yeah, what not to put. Nicknames. Like I said earlier, my grandchildren call me Bama. Don't put "Made by Bama with love," because 100 years from now, no one's gonna
Not gonna know
know
who
who
that is.
Bama is. Mhm.
Right.
Or Nana, or Nana. There's a lot of Nanas out there, you know?
Yeah.
Don't do that. I mean, it's cute, and you don't think your quilts will be around for 100 years maybe, but look at all of them that are. So,
Yeah, that's true.
mhm.
That's true. I we should label all of our quilts. I get it.
Yes, you should.
Quilt please.
Yes. I know, I felt like that, but I felt like that at retreat. But that the one lady came by our table and she goes, "You're still working on that?" And I know she was kidding, and I went, "Well, yeah," and I thought, "Who made you quilt, please?" But, she was just joking, and then I did it later to Sherry. She came over and I said, "Weren't you working on that the other day or something?" And of course you were working on that peeled onion, whatever it is.
Yeah, and yeah, and you came and said, "Didn't you make one of those a couple of years ago?" Yes, this one.
Yeah, same
Uh,
one.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, cool. Okay, well, I think that's all we know about labels. If anybody has any questions or additions, we will talk about it. You let me know, and we'll talk about it next time. And like I said, you can find us at find you at Quilting with Mary Beth on Facebook and Instagram, and you can find me at Donna W. Smith Quilter. And we will make sure that we circle back if we need to.
Yeah.
So, Mary Beth, it is Friday, March 28th. We've got a big weekend coming. So I'm going to let you go and we will see you guys next time.
See you later.
Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next time.